Hello students, how are you all? I hope all of you are well and safe at home. Now, students, today I will tell you some basic difference between civil codes and criminal codes. Now, the basic difference between civil codes and criminal codes is that civil code is to decide the dispute of civil nature. Like if there is a dispute between two persons over property, over some money, over some movable property, car, bus, etc., or with regard to some dispute of house, plot, land also. Now that is civil disputes of civil nature, which can be decided by civil courts only, because the main function of civil court is to decide such disputes. But on the other hand, the main function of criminal courts is to bring the accused who has committed some offense and to conduct trial against him and to punish if he is guilty of committing some offense. Now today we will start the functioning of criminal court, that how criminal court initiate the proceedings in the court and how the police comes in operation. Suppose an offense has been committed. Let me take one example so that it will be very easy for you to understand that what is the main function of the criminal courts. Suppose A has entered into the house of B and he has slapped B twice while sitting in his own house. Now here A has committed two offenses. One, he has entered into the house of other. He has committed criminal trespass. It is a house trespass. And secondly, he has slapped, he has caused some hurt. Therefore, he has committed two offenses, punishable under section 323 of IPC, where the punishment is of 1 year. Then he has also committed an offense punishable under section 452 IPC, which carries 7-year imprisonment. Now, in this case, let us see where B should go, whom he should approach. Now, he is having two options. He can go to the police station to register an FIR, and police station can register an FIR. SHO, who is in charge of the police station, he is required to register an FIR if the offense is cognizable. If the offense is non-cognizable, he is not competent to register an FIR. Now here the question arises, what is a cognizable offense and what is non-cognizable offense? Students, when you will touch the CRPC, go to end of this CRPC and you will find that there are two schedules. In first schedule, you will find that there are 6 columns. In first column, they have given number of sections of IPC, all the sections. Then they have in second column, they have given the brief of contents of the offense. In third column, they have given the punishments. In fourth column, they have given whether the offense is cognizable or non-cognizable. Now, fifth column will tell us which offense is bailable and which offense is non-bailable. Last column, that is sixth column, it will show that which court is capable, competent to try the offense. Now, therefore, and on each and every time we have to look into that schedule, whether the offense is bailable or non-bailable, whether the offense is cognizable or non-cognizable. Now, in both the cases, the offense under section 323, it is non-cognizable if you find that schedule. Now, the offense under section 452 of IPC, it is cognizable. When one offense is cognizable among many offenses, then it becomes a cognizable case, and the police becomes competent to register an FIR. In cognizable offenses, police is competent to arrest the accused without warrants. Not only that, but the police can also register an FIR. The police can also conduct a proper investigation in that case. Now, after conducting investigation, then it will send police report to that judicial magistrate. Now, suppose in this case, this B, he has approached the SHO, but they have not written FIR, and he has approached the SP also, Superintendent of Police, and he did not also attend to him. Now he is having option to go to the magistrate, and he will file a criminal complaint, and he will describe in criminal complaint all the allegations against A, that how he has committed that offense. Now thereafter, he will also appear in the court to give his statement on oath, and that statement will be signed by him. And it will also be signed by the judicial magistrate who has received the complaint. And we will also produce the witnesses who has seen the incident. And those witnesses will also put their signatures on the statement. Now, after recording the statements, the magistrate will go through the entire material, that is complaint. Secondly, all the statements. If he is of the view that there is no offense, nobody has committed any offense, then the magistrate will dismiss the complaint under section 203 of CRPC. Now, suppose he is of the opinion that no, there is sufficient material against the accused for proceeding against the accused, then he can issue summons. If it is a summon case, he may issue the warrants if it is a warrant case. Now here also question arises that what is a summon case and what is a warrant case? Students, both these terms are very, very important terms. You must keep in mind, because throughout my discussion in this entire CRPC, I will refer to these words many times. Why? Because procedure for trying summon cases is different from that of warrant cases. Therefore, warrant cases are those cases where the death penalty can be given, life imprisonment can be given, or where punishment, imprisonment more than 2 years can be given. Now, summon cases are those cases where imprisonment can be given only up to 2 years or 2 years, not more than 2 years. Now, this is the basic difference you must keep in mind. Now, here, since 323 section of IPC, it carries 1 year imprisonment only. Therefore, it is a summon case. Now, section 452, it carries 7 year imprisonment. Now, therefore, it is a, here we will say it is a warrant case. Now, when in a case there is a warrant case, total case is considered to be warrant case. Now, in this case, it is the discretion of the magistrate to issue warrants under section 204, or he may issue summons. Suppose after summoning the accused has put his appearance in the court. Now, thereafter, we are to start the procedure, because now proper trial is to be conducted by the court. Now, here it is very essential, students, to know every step of procedure, because if you are master of that, then you will succeed in any field. Either you are doing the profession, a legal practitioner, or you are a judge, or wherever you are there. Now, the next step will be according to the procedure, according to the case, whether it is a warrant case or it is a summon case. Now, here we will say it is a warrant case. Therefore, we will follow that procedure which is meant for warrant case. Let us see that procedure for warrant case. What is that procedure? Now, this is the warrant case, section 244 to 250. Now, it means the next step of judicial magistrate is to do according to the provisions of section 244. Now, section 244 says that in the presence of accused, the complainant, he will bring the witnesses again and he will examine the witnesses, and accused will be given an opportunity to cross-examine all the witnesses. Now, here, please keep in mind, very important thing, that under section 200 CRPC, the judicial magistrate has recorded the evidence at the back of the accused. Accused was not there. That evidence is known as preliminary evidence or pre-summoning evidence. Now, here under section 244, we are recording here pre-charge evidence. Now, these words are very familiar in the courts. Therefore, you should also be very familiar with these words. Now, we are going to record pre-charge evidence. Now, he will record the evidence here. It is the wish of the complainant to examine as many witnesses as he desires. Now, suppose complainant is having 7 witnesses with him. Now, he has examined, firstly, under section 200, only 3 witnesses, because here the judge was only simply to see whether there is a sufficient material to proceed against the accused or not. Now, under section 244, he can add 2 more because he is having 7 witnesses. He has examined already 3 witnesses. Now, he will bring all 5 witnesses, and the statements of all the 5 witnesses will be recorded again under section 244, and the accused will be having opportunity to cross-examine. Why here we have allowed the accused to cross-examine the witnesses? Because through cross-examination, accused will show to the court, look here, sir, the case is a false case. There is no truth in the case. Therefore, he is entitled to be discharged. Now, after the conclusion of evidence of the complainant under section 244, the judicial magistrate is to decide whether there is no material, whether no case is made out against the accused. If no case is made out against the accused, then accused will be discharged under section 245. Now here the question arises that what is the difference between discharge and acquittal? Accused is discharged when there is no sufficient material against him. But he can be again tried if sufficient material appears later on. But once he has been acquitted, then he cannot be tried again as per section 300 of CRPC, because principle of double jeopardy will be applicable, because he cannot be punished, he cannot be vexed again and again. Therefore, he should be tried only once. But this principle will not be applicable to discharge. Now let us proceed further. Suppose the judicial magistrate is of the view that in this case, the accused has proved the case, and if it remained unrebutted, it would warrant the conviction of the accused. Then in that case, he will frame the charge against the accused under section 246 of CRPC. And now formal charge will be framed because it is a warrant case. We will bring to the notice of the accused, look here, these are the allegations against you, and you have committed this offense also under 323 IPC and under section 452 of IPC. And then we will ask him whether, because we will read and explain each and everything to him, and we will ask him whether he pleads guilty. Now, if he pleads guilty that he has committed this offense, then there are 4 options with the judicial magistrate. Judicial magistrate can admonish the accused under section 360 of CRPC if he is of the opinion that this is a very slight case of trivial nature, it is a trifle, not serious matter. But if he finds that no, it is serious matter, then he can release the accused on probation also under section 360 CRPC. Releasing on probation means that a person has been released after taking some bond from him that he will not commit any offense in coming 2 years, 3 years, or he will not disturb the peaceful atmosphere of the society. Now, if he follows the conditions strictly, then absolutely there will be no action against him. But if he violates any of the conditions, then he will be liable. Now suppose the magistrate has not opted to deal with either of the option, and he finds that the offense is very serious and the punishment should be more than he is competent. Now here question arises that what is the competence? Now judicial magistrate second class, he can give imprisonment up to 1 year and he can impose fine up to 5,000. Judicial magistrate first class, he can give imprisonment up to 3 years and can impose fine up to 10,000. Now here if the judicial magistrate is of the view that punishment should be more than he is competent, then he can send the case to Chief Judicial Magistrate under section 325 of CRPC. Now if he finds that none of these options should be adopted, then he can give punishment to the accused, whatever he is competent to impose. If he is a judicial magistrate first class, then he can give imprisonment up to 3 years. If he is a judicial magistrate second class, then he can give imprisonment up to 1 year. Now let us see, we will revert back to the earlier situation. The accused does not plead guilty. Rather he claims the trial. He says that no, it is a false case. He will prove the case to be false, and he wants to lead his own evidence. Then what we will do, we will ask the accused that we have examined 5 witnesses under section 244, whether he wants to cross-examine any of those witnesses further. If he says that he wants to cross-examine further 2 witnesses out of 5 witnesses, then we will summon those 2 witnesses. It is the duty of the court, duty of the judicial magistrate to summon those 2 witnesses, and he will thereafter conduct the further cross-examination of 2 witnesses. Now thereafter, complainant will be asked whether he wants to produce 2 witnesses more, which are left earlier, which he did not examine under section 200, or which he has not examined even under section 244. Now he can examine those witnesses here. Now after the closure of the evidence of the complainant here, then it is the judicial magistrate who is to record the statement of accused under section 313. Now this statement of accused is very important statement. This statement is not on oath. Opposite party is not allowed to cross-examine the accused. Rather, this statement is in question answer form. Simply we will raise the question. What questions will be here out of this case? That whether on specific date at specific time you entered into the house of B. He may say that he has not entered into the house. We will record his answer as it is. Second question, we will say that you have slapped B while B was sitting in his house. He may say no, he has not entered into the house, therefore he has not committed such offense. Like that, there may be many questions. There may be 10 questions, there may be 20 questions. We will prepare that and we will record his answer also. Then we will get his signatures at the end. Now this is very important, sir. This statement is recorded after the conclusion of the evidence of the complainant, and after recording this statement, we will give an opportunity to the accused to present defense evidence also under section 247. Now, under section 247, accused will produce his evidence also, and we will record his evidence, and his witnesses can be summoned. When he concludes his evidence, then we will ask both the parties, that is defense counsel and the counsel of the complainant or complainant, to sum up their case and to submit their arguments. And these arguments are heard under section 314. Now here, students, you must know all the steps. That is why we have inserted these sections in between, that where these sections plays a role. Now this section 313 plays role after section 246. Section 314 plays its role only after conclusion of the defense evidence. Now when arguments are over, then the court will decide whether the complainant has proved the case beyond the reasonable doubt. If it is so, then the magistrate will convict the accused, will hold the accused guilty. But in case he is of the view that the complainant has failed to prove its case beyond the shadow of the reasonable doubt, then certainly he will acquit the accused. Suppose he has convicted the accused in this case. Now thereafter, he will be having same 4 options which we have discussed earlier. Now therefore, he can choose either of the options. He can admonish the accused, he can release the accused on probation, he can refer the case to the Chief Judicial Magistrate under section 325 of CRPC, or he can give punishment. Now, this was the total entire procedure in a criminal complaint case. On one day, we will come to another stage, that how the trial is conducted if the case is instituted on police report. Now we will call this case the case instituted otherwise than on police report, because it is otherwise than on police report, not on the police report. Now this section 249 is very important here. I should not miss that. Suppose during the trial, complainant is absent on one day, then what is the procedure? If the magistrate has not yet framed the charge, then the magistrate can discharge the accused if the offenses are compoundable or not cognizable. Now here, now if he is to see whether the offense is compoundable or not, or whether this is non-cognizable or cognizable, then he is to decide. Now he can discharge the accused, but before framing the charge. Suppose he has framed the charge and the complainant is absent, then he will not discharge the accused. He will ask the public prosecutor. That public prosecutor should conduct the case on behalf of the complainant. Yes, students, we will conclude here, because here warrant cases instituted otherwise than on police report has been concluded. And we will take next topic on next day. All right, students, all the best. Thank you.